So how is it possible that a book about war, written 2,500 years ago, is still something that generals, CEOs, and even football coaches study today? We're talking about Sun Tzu's The Art of War, what many people call the holy grail of military science. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly why its ancient wisdom feels more important now than ever.
Sun Tzu doesn't mess around. This is literally the very first line of the book. Right from the get-go, he makes it clear that strategy isn't some game. We're talking about the highest stakes imaginable, life and death survival itself. And that seriousness, that gravity, that's the foundation for everything else he's about to say.
So, who was the incredible mind behind these powerful words? Well, we're talking about a man named Sun Wu, who the world knows as Sun Tzu, the brilliant, kind of mysterious general who literally wrote the book on how to win. Now, you have to picture the time Sun Wu was living in. It was a chaotic period in ancient China with constant, brutal warfare. But here's the thing, he wasn't just some warrior. He was a philosopher, a deep thinker, who saw that real victory wasn't about brute force. No, it was about using your mind, about careful calculation.
And this guy absolutely practiced what he preached. This wasn't just theory for him. After getting recommended an incredible 7 times, he walked in, presented his 13 chapters, the book we're talking about, to the king of Wu, and boom, he was made a general on the spot. And what did he do? He went out and led his armies to massive victories, turning the state of Wu into the regional superpower. He didn't just write the playbook, he proved it worked.
So what's the big idea? What's at the core of his philosophy? Well, for Sun Tzu, the goal was never just to fight. It was to win. And to win smart, with the least amount of cost, using your brain, your foresight, and a mastery of psychology.
This right here, this is the heart of it all. The absolute pinnacle of skill, the supreme art of war, is to win without ever having to fight. I mean, think about that. It's this wild, counterintuitive idea that the best victory is the one where your opponent just gives in. That is strategic genius.
Okay, so how do you do that? How do you win without fighting? Sun Tzu actually gives us a pecking order, a hierarchy. The best thing you can do, attack their strategy. Outthink them before a single soldier moves. The next best, break up their alliances, isolate them. Actually fighting their army, that's only the third best option. And the absolute worst thing you can do, a bloody, costly siege on a city. The message couldn't be clearer, direct conflict is always your last resort, never your first move.
This is probably the most famous line from the entire book, and for a really good reason. It's the golden rule of strategy. Winning isn't about luck, it's about information. You have to deeply understand your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and you have to be brutally honest about your own. That combo, that's the key to winning, again and again. And he lays out the stakes of that knowledge so clearly. If you know both yourself and your enemy, you're pretty much safe. If you only know yourself, well, your chances are 50-50. It's a coin toss. But if you're clueless about both, you're basically asking for a disaster every single time. It just shows information is everything.
Now, before a conflict even begins, Sun Tzu says you have to do your homework. He gives us these 5 crucial factors to assess for both sides. You gotta ask, is our cause just? Are our people with us? Is the timing right? What's the weather? Do we get the lay of the land? Is our leadership up to the task? And is our team organized and disciplined? If you can calculate these things, you can basically predict who's going to win.
But all that knowledge and planning, that's just one side of the coin. The other side is deception. Sun Tzu says all warfare is based on it. You have to keep your opponent off balance. Make them think you're weak when you're strong. Make them think you're far away when you're right on their doorstep. It's all about psychology, about controlling the story and making your enemy dance to your tune.
Okay, so we've met the man, we've broken down his wisdom, but how in the world did these ancient tactics from the battlefield become this global phenomenon that influences everything from corporate boardrooms to political campaigns?
Well, the book's journey to the West was a really slow burn. For centuries, its wisdom was mostly contained in Asia, where it heavily influenced samurai warriors in Japan. It wasn't until the 1700s that it was translated into French, and not until the early 20th century that an English version appeared. But from there, its influence just exploded, becoming essential reading for military leaders everywhere.
But here's what's truly amazing: how the ideas jumped out of the military world. Business leaders started seeing the marketplace as a kind of battlefield. Politicians saw their campaigns as strategic operations. It turns out that understanding your competition, using your resources wisely, and knowing the perfect time to make a move, Those are universal principles for success, not just for war.
And this isn't just a vague idea, it's very literal. Take Japan, for instance. They have an entire school of business management that is explicitly based on military strategy, applying Sun Tzu's ideas directly to corporate competition. The concept of attacking your rival's strategy, that translates perfectly to outsmarting them on a product launch.
Just think about that number for a second. 2,500 years. That's how long these ideas have been studied and put into practice. Not because they're about fighting, but because they're about strategy, about competition, and about human nature itself. 3 things that honestly never, ever change.
And that's what brings all this ancient wisdom right back to you and me. Because look, whether you're trying to advance your career, launch a personal project, or compete in pretty much anything, these principles still apply. So it makes you wonder, right? In your life, what's your battlefield? And what's your plan to win? And, just maybe, how can you do it without ever having to fight?